This episode of Rookie Hunter is brought to you by the Wild Sheep Foundation. Become a member, join the Lesson 1 Club, and attend their annual convention, Sheep Show, Reno, Nevada in 2020. For more information, go to wildsheepfoundation.org. Hey guys, this is the episode you're looking for. This is episode 115. And this is part 1 of our 2019 sheep hunt. Glad you guys waited, hung in there for it. I'm not going to say too much about it. We're just going to hop right into things. But before we do that, I want to make it clear again that this hunt was made possible with support from the Wild Sheep Foundation. Go over, become a member. Doesn't cost much. Go to thewildsheepfoundation.org and also join the Less Than One Club while you're there. Sitka gear. This hunt would have been a lot different if we did not have Sitka clothing along with us. I'm going to give a shout out to the Sitka Calvin lightweight hoodie. It's kind of the puffy that I like to wear. I wore that thing all the time. Anytime we'd stop to do some glassing, first thing I would do, throw that hoodie on, and kept me nice and warm, insulated. Love that thing. You better believe we brought North Arm Knives along with us. Go over to northarmknives.com, get yourself a blade. But you guys waited long enough. Let's get into part 1 of our 2019 sheep hunt. Kelly Molnar.
What's going on?
How you doing, brother?
Good.
That's good.
Yeah.
So I haven't seen you for a while.
Yeah, it's been a couple weeks. This will probably surprise people.
Yeah.
Like, what the?
Part
Supposed to be on this hunt.
Excuse me? So I don't know if it was 2 days before we left or a day before we left, but I got a call from you.
Yeah. So I had some family matter to attend to, and it's all positive. So nobody has to worry about anything health-wise or anything like that. But unfortunately, I can't get into too much detail at this point. So in a couple episodes, we'll get into that.
Yeah.
So, as it was positive, but it was kind of a kick in the gut too, because I knew I couldn't go on the hunt with you guys. And, I was excited to kind of follow along, and I gave you my inReach. So I kind of got updates along the way.
Yeah.
But I was pumped for you guys. And yeah, now you guys are back and you survived.
We survived. We got all of our fingers and toes, although I got one, I don't know if you could see it, that toenail is black for some reason. I don't know what happened to that one. I think that toe's going to fall off or
Just
something.
Gave up. He's like, fuck it, I'm out of here.
Pretty much. Got trench foot or something because it was pretty wet up there. I don't know what the deal is. But
I actually read about that.
Yeah.
An article. Oh no, I saw it on Instagram. One guy said he resold his boots.
Yeah.
And then he went up for a hunt the next year and he got trench foot, basically. I think that's what it's called.
Yeah.
Infected foot basically from moisture.
Right.
Because water was getting in. So he said like never resole your boots and go on a hunt like that.
Interesting. It's good to know.
Yeah. Don't play around with your boots.
Don't mess with your boots.
Just spend the money.
Yeah, exactly, man.
Anyways, I don't want to spend too much time on me right now, but I think we should jump into this hunt.
Well, should we just hop in the airplane here? I've got some audio of the plane taking off from the lake, so let's start with that. And this will be Garrett and I laying in the Nalo together here on it was the second to last night that we were there. So we did a recap, a full, pretty detailed recap of the entire hunt. We're going to split this into 2. I know you guys are like, you motherfuckers, you're splitting it into 2. But
the bear episode was 2 and that worked out pretty good.
I mean,
you got to wait.
You got to wait. But hey, we got to have some fun here too. So the second part will be up probably Wednesday next week. But anyways, let's get into part 1 here, and hope you guys dig it. Sheep Hunt 2019 coming to a close.
What an adventure.
It's been a hell of an adventure. And I think that's kind of what sums up this trip the most. It's like we were trying to break it down to like, hunt day one, hunt day two. But really it's like day one starts the moment you leave home, right?
Absolutely.
And it's been just crazy. Like we were talking about, the drive up here last night when we were sitting around the fire, and I'm like, man, that feels like it was a month ago. This is pretty wild. But people probably know you, Garrett, because you've been on the podcast a couple times.
Yeah, I've been on a couple times.
And we've been talking about you lots, but just quickly introduce yourself and just maybe explain where we are.
Yeah, definitely. That's my name is Garrett Marcon. Mike's my cousin. We grew up together. We rode here in the mountains up at a summit lake. It's gorgeous, big towering peaks. They're snow-capped. It's beautiful. You can see the alpine. There's the outfitter here just down the way, and we got horses surrounding us with the bells on them, so you can hear the bells. But just a magnificent spot. It's unreal.
Yeah. Before we were in the tent now, just because the weather kept changing, it was raining on the recorder and that. But we have both Yeti coolers, and we set them up down next to the lake, and we cooked some smokies up, and we had some whiskey and some beer and stuff in the cooler, and that was sort of like our reward for like finishing the hunt. And we just knew that we were coming back to that, and with the horses in the background, the bells on, and the sun was setting, and the lake was like glass, and the mountains were reflecting off the water, and you could sort of see the glow of lantern light or whatever they have down at the outfitter cabin. It's just like, man, what a way to finish this thing off. It couldn't be any better.
Couldn't be any better.
And I'm pretty thankful that we decided to like grab some last minute groceries when we were at Dease Lake, and it's like nothing great. We had Wonder Bread buns and random Smokies and a bag of chips and some Coors Banquet. But man, like, there's nothing better than coming back and finding that here is like a treasure chest. And so, but anyways, man, getting off topic because it's such a beautiful spot here. Going way back before we even came. Actually, hold on a sec. We should probably mention that it's just the two of us here, and I'll let Kelly explain why, but it's all positive things, man. We're both super excited for Kelly, and I'll probably get him to open up this episode and explain why he's not here. But that was kind of a last minute unexpected change of plans before we came up here. But going back before that, Garrett, what were some of what'd you do to prepare for this hunt?
Everything I could, to researching online and how much I'm supposed to be eating and what kind of clothing I should be wearing, and my pack, shelter, my sleeping, just mentally being prepared and exercising and making sure my home family is all taken care of before taking off on a big trip like this.
Yeah.
There's just lots of stuff to do before you go out on an adventure like this.
Yeah, what kind of training were you doing?
I was doing a lot of backpack training. I got 2 young toddlers there, so I was taking them up behind my house. I live in the Kootenays, so the mountains are right out my back door, so I've been doing a lot of...
You're hucking the boys in the backpack?
Putting the boy in the backpack there and going for a hike and loading it up. And then my work is pretty physically demanding too, so I do a lot of steps at work and just a lot of cardio and putting the backpack on and wearing my boots a lot, the same boots
nice.
I'm wearing out here, just getting my feet ready.
That's a good plan. Before we left, was there anything you were unsure of or concerned about? Or
I was definitely concerned about how much food I was eating.
Right.
I didn't think I packed enough food for this trip, and it showed there's days there where I could have ate double what I would have had.
Yeah.
So I think the food thing was the biggest challenge for me. I really didn't, I didn't know how much to consume and what we'd be doing and how much we'd be doing, and that part really rocked me.
Do you know how many calories you ended up around?
Yeah, I was around about 2,600, 2,700 calories per day.
Yeah, it was around 24, 25. And there's some days it felt great. Like today, I actually didn't even eat that much, man. But there was some big a lot of big days there. And, you and I were joking. We were like, fuck, I'd eat anything right now. Or just start talking about all the different food you would eat.
Yeah.
I'm ready to start chewing on your arm. And we actually packed extra food. And you start thinking, wow, what if I opened up another bag? But then it's like, wow, what if we get weather and stuff, right? And we get stuck out here. So you can't really, what you have for that day is what you have until you know, like, okay, we're leaving, tomorrow or the next day. Then you can start cracking into that extra food. But it's tricky. I was never starving though. Were you? Like, I felt like I could eat stuff, but I wasn't like dying.
Yeah, I felt like, I mean, when you're done your freezer dried meal at the end of the day, you're like, man, I could just crush another one of those right
Absolutely.
now. Yeah. But you're right, because you're always, like, the weather out here changes. Like, in a day, it'll rain, snow, sun, cloudy, and then it's windy, like, all in one day. Yeah. So you don't, like, are we going to get picked up on the day we intend to go out?
Exactly. Yeah.
So, but like this last day, now it's just a free-for-all. We're just eating whatever we can.
Yeah, just trying to lighten up our load. Well, what do you figure, Garrett? Should we go through like each day and cover this whole adventure? Look at all these notes.
Yeah, let's do it.
Because we figure, as much as whoever's listening to this is going to enjoy it, this is going to be cool for us while these memories are still fresh, and it's really been an adventure since we left. So. Day one, you left trail.
I left trail, yep. I got up at just before 4, and I made sure I was on the road at 4 o'clock.
Yeah, so what time did you get to Kelowna to pick me up? It was around
7:30-ish?
Somewhere in there, yeah. So I was anxiously waiting for you to show up, and people who listen to the show know that Oscar's got a bad ticker. His heart's not doing so good, and I don't know what he was upset because I had the backpack, right? He knew 2 days before that I was leaving, so he kept following me around and shit like that. And so I'm going up and down the stairs, kind of just getting my last few things ready before you pick me up there. And I think his leg seized up and he tripped on the stairs or whatever. Like, I think he had like a Charlie horse or something like that. So I come up and I see him struggling to get up. I'm like, Jesus Christ, he's having a heart attack and he's going to die right before Garrett gets here. So I had to pick him up, carry him up to the top of the stairs, put him on his bed, and he was totally fine. Like, fuck, this is the worst. Kelly's can't make the hunt. My dog's having another heart attack. And Garrett's going to be here in 5 minutes. But he was fine. So that was my first, jolt of, I don't know, anxiety for the day. But we left Kelowna. We went up to Kamloops. We stopped and got some, what did we get there? Some smoothies and stuff, which we're trying to eat as healthy as we could for as long as possible, because it seems like the further north you go, the less options you have for food. And then so we left Kamloops. I don't know if there's anything worth noting in between there.
Well, we almost got creamed by a diesel.
Well, I was just gonna say, so we went up, we go through this, I think it's called Savona, I think that's how you pronounce it. Beautiful area to drive through. It's all just like rolling sagebrush and rabbit brush hills, and we saw some sheep in there actually.
That's right, yeah.
Some, I guess those would be cowies in there. And then not long after that, we almost got run off the road by a fucking semi. And that was my second heart attack for the day. And from there on, it was just a nice drive, man. I don't know if there's, if you remember anything in particular from that to Smithers. We had to grab a few last minute things in Prince George, some fire starter. We were just worried that we were a bit short, but...
Oh, yeah, that's right. And then we stopped for coffee in Williams Lake, or was that Quesnel?
Oh, yeah. Williams Lake, I think.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah. Got to our hotel in Smithers. We had dinner and stuff there. Fucking horrible dinner. But is what it is. We went to Don Cherry's Sports Bar,
and we were like, yeah, let's get steak and that. It was terrible.
Oh man.
Now, if we ate that right now, though, I bet it would be amazing.
Oh yeah, no problem.
Funny how things change. So yeah, we checked in the hotel. It was probably 8:30 or whatever. Both of you and I, we woke up at what, 4:30 the next day.
Yeah.
We're just wired, ready to rock and roll. So I woke up. I saw you got up for a piss, and then both just laying there like, man, should we just go? Like, yeah, let's do it. So we hit the road. We went all the way up to Bell 2, which is this random little heli ski outfit there. And they have like a breakfast buffet. So if any of you guys are ever doing this same trek, that was a nice little pit stop in there. And then after that, we started to hit snow.
Who would have known you get a snowstorm in the middle of August? I mean, I guess that maybe up north you'd expect that,
I don't
but
know. It sounded like people like who live up here were like, yeah, this is pretty unusual.
but like trees are just getting crushed because they still have their leaves on them,
Yeah.
so it's taking the weight of the snow. So we had there was trees all over the road, and some of the bridges were single lane, so you got truckers coming at you, and it was
All these RVs and
yeah, a
and
lot
that.
of people driving even people on motorbikes
Yeah, that's crazy.
trying to make it through, and that was wild.
We had summer tires on your
Yep.
vehicle there, because we weren't expecting snow, so we're just like putting along, and it's like slush, and it got up to a couple inches deep there, I think, at some stages. Man.
Absolutely.
And yeah, like so, there's trees cracking all over the place onto the road, and it was wild. So that was all pretty unexpected, and we kind of knew what was coming for as far as getting out of Dease Lake. It wasn't looking that good for weather and that, but checked in the hotel, went to we were using BC Yukon for our flights. Went and said hi to them, and they said, yeah, weather permitting, we're going to try and get you guys out. There's a few people ahead of you because everyone's been trapped in here, and there's lots of guys waiting to come out too. So we were pretty open to the fact that that's just kind of how things work up here. And you were a helicopter mechanic for many years, so you're pretty familiar with how things work in the north, and there's no guarantees as far as flying, man.
Yeah, it's just the way it goes. You have no control over it.
Yeah.
Majority of the people in Dease Lake, I mean, I would say all of them are super friendly.
Absolutely.
I mean, they know we're from out of town, and we were stuck there for how many days?
3 full days. Yeah, we checked in on one day, and then it was 3 more days after that. So I guess technically like 3.5 days or something like that. What day would that be now? 3. We went there early in the morning because that's when we were due to fly, but the weather was shit and the cloud ceiling was super low. There was 2 groups ahead of us, and they managed to get them out. By the time they came back, they said there's no way we can get you guys out, because the lake that we're flying into, we have to go over like a pretty decent mountain pass, and it was just like a wall of shit. So they said there's no way we can even attempt to get you out. The other 2 groups were sort of north of Dease Lake, and they didn't have to go through that mountain range there, so they were a little bit easier to get them out. But anyways, it was good that those guys got out. Day 3, we should mention, like, when you're in Dease Lake, man, like, Garrett, what is there for food options?
There's not much. You got a general store. Actually, that general store is pretty good.
awesome.
They got a lot of good stuff in there. And then you got there's a hotel that serves up pizza, which it's pretty damn good pizza.
It is pretty good.
But once you've eaten it night after night, you kind of need something like a little change up. But other than that, man, we did pretty good.
We did pretty good, yeah. We did 2 nights of pizza. We spread them out. Did 1 night of salad there. And then we did another night where we actually barbecued and got some smokies and some bag salad and shit like that, which was pretty good. But the people at the general store were pretty nice. And, like, you start to recognize people. Like, there was the woman from the first hotel that we stayed at there. And they're like, everyone's checking in, like, oh, you didn't get out, and how you guys doing? And they're making us breakfast sandwiches in the afternoon, even though they're not serving breakfast anymore. It's like
Just
super friendly.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
And that first place we stayed in, like the main kind of foyer
Oh, yeah, that
lodge
was
is
awesome.
like, it's a log cabin. So they got the wood stove burning in
Yeah,
there.
it was great.
It's comfortable. They're welcoming. They let you hang out there
Yeah.
and, you know.
Have a beer and sit by the fire. It's great. We met a fella from New Zealand there, gave us some tips, and yeah, it was pretty cool, man. Everyone's pretty welcoming and eager to chat and all that. Just crazy how long this is. This is only day 3, so on the third day that we were there, or no, sorry, this is day 4. They tried to fly us out, and we hit that wall of cloud again, and couldn't get. We got about halfway to the lake that we're at now, somewhere in there. Do you think it was halfway?
That was about halfway.
But the cool thing was we were flying in, and how many moose did we see?
Oh,
It was incredible.
yeah. Must have been close to 10, if not more.
Well, there was 8 in that one spot there, I think. I remember I pointed out the window to you and like, Garrett, check it out. And there's a moose down there. You're like, look over there. And there's like probably 6 or 8 of them all just standing in the water together. Never seen anything like that
I've
in my
never
life.
seen it like that.
And then as we flew along, we'd see a couple more standing together. We had to bank and turn around. And then on the other side of that lake, there was even more. Like there's cows and calves walking on game trails together. There was others standing in the water. Like they were everywhere, man. It was unbelievable. So that was cool to see. It was nice to just get out in the plane. And the cool thing is like they're just eager to get us out. So they didn't charge us to go out and do that flight, which is pretty cool if you think about it.
Oh, the flight itself is it's just to take that in the scenery and
Yeah.
seeing animals like that.
Yeah, it was pretty nice, and everyone at BC Yukon is super accommodating and friendly. Like we were a couple days there, man. We just hung out and sat on the couch and drank some beer, and they're bringing us cookies and all kinds of stuff. Man.
Yeah, that was great.
It was great. So on day 5, this is our third day of full waiting. The weather was just garbage, and they said like it's not going to happen today, but we'll call you. We started looking at other lake options because we were worried that we weren't going to get here. And they actually said if you guys want to leave this afternoon, we can take you to such and such lake. So we started looking at maps and stuff like that, and we came to the conclusion that we wanted to come to the lake that we had planned for, and if we had to wait one more night and fly out the next morning, then so be it. Even though we're anxious, we just had to sit down and think about it for a while. And I think we made the right call.
Well, you spent so much time planning your trip out and what you're going to do and researching the mountain ranges and all the drainages and then to be thrown a curveball like, well, you can't go there. It's like we were rushing to try to figure out, okay, how quickly can we learn another lake? And
And the internet is so shitty up here. We couldn't download maps. And like I've got all of the maps for this area on my phone, and we could have just went in there and wung it, but like, what's the point of going in there if like we would have got in there late on the Wednesday night anyways? So we might as well have just waited and come here and early Thursday morning, which is what we did. We got out bright and early. They called us. Somebody was supposed to go out before us. There was an outfitter. They didn't show up, which worked out well for us. And we were in the air by
it was
6:30.
early. Yep.
Got here to the lake. Our pilot Mackenzie, super cool chick from New Zealand. She had never landed in this lake, and I think she was kind of surprised by like it's a high elevation lake, and it's kind of a tricky one to land in. But I think she was having fun with it because you have to fly over it, bank a hard left, and drop into this lake, and you kind of have to turn into it. Like you have to bank left and drop in. But it's pretty. Those planes, man, they're pretty cool. Like the landing is smooth. You almost don't even know you're in the water.
Oh, that was like just the flight in alone, like through the mountain passes and.
It was finally clear. I got some great video that I'll put up of just like sun coming in through the front window. It was just beautiful, man. And when the pilot comments on how nice it is, it's something special, right?
And in landing on that lake, coming over top of the outfitter, like there was another camp in here too. So you kind of think like, I mean, this place is getting pounded pretty hard, but there's a lot of country here.
There is, yeah. so we landed, well, right where the tent is right now. The plane was parked just right next to this, which is pretty cool. You just hop off the floats and don't even get your boots in the water. But we went and said hi to the guys that were camped out here. You know, we just asked them where they were going. They were here first, and we told them where we were going, and we weren't going to interfere with each other. So we just headed on out of here right away.
Yeah, everyone was respectful,
Yeah.
and how you think it should be, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we started hiking out of here. The first thing I noticed was grizzly bear tracks the size of dinner plates. Not like right, quarter of a kilometer up the trail here.
There's a lot of bears in this drainage.
Tons of bears. But it was beautiful, man, just surrounded by mountains and that. Not too long after that, we saw a cow and a calf moose.
Yep.
Just hanging out. They're checking us out. That was pretty cool. Kept walking. We got to a creek. We thought, that's a good spot to have some coffee and some breakfast. Got the binos and the spotter out. Sure enough, you spotted some sheep within, 10 minutes of sitting there.
Yeah, a young ram there,
Yeah.
skylined, and you research these things and just always put their spotter on there.
Yeah.
Even if you put your binos up and you think, well,
There's
it's
nothing
probably
there.
nothing, and
Yeah.
then you pull your spotter out and hey, look at that. It's a young ram with a bunch of other ones with him.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool right out of the gate.
Yeah, 4. I think there was 4, right?
Yeah, there was 4 sheep up there on that ridge. But nothing legal, but you know what I mean? It kept,
Oh, it's exciting.
it's exciting.
Yeah, see, sheep right off the get-go there. So, yeah, we kind of put that in the back pocket because we had a spot in mind that we wanted to get to set up camp. Continued on. Not long after that, we spotted a whole bunch of goats. I think we counted, I want to say 13 or something like that. They were just dotted all over this big cliffside. It's kind of, there's like almost 2 sides to that, eh?
Yeah, like would that be southwest facing?
Gotta think about this. Yeah, kind of. Yeah. It's kind of like a big triangle that juts out, and they're on both sides. And there's an upper section and a lower section, and they're just like white dots all over the place. So
Just a real cool landscape. Like it's all rock outcrop on one
Yeah.
side, and then just a great big. It looks like just a big grassy patch
Yeah.
that runs up the spot where they were, but it's all majority. It was alders, but
yeah,
on the top it was just all like that alpine grass.
and yeah, so pretty neat, man. We didn't spend too much time looking at them because we had sheep on our mind, but we again sort of put that in the back pocket because we knew, what was it, 3 days from that point that goat would be open, and if we wanted to, we could come back and maybe take a crack at that. So that was pretty cool. But again, we had a spot in mind to set up camp, so we motored on through there. Yeah, we had to do a little bit of bushwhacking because we didn't want to cross the river. We probably should have just crossed the river, or the creek, I should say. But we found some game trails and we made our way through. And then we got back on the horse trail and we headed up this other drainage, which was pretty incredible up there.
Oh, it's amazing. Like for people who've never been up here, like the mountains, they just go straight up both sides.
Yeah.
So you almost have to get on the right side of the creek if you're going to glass up one side of the mountain,
Yeah.
or get to a location where you can see something.
You get
'cause
up higher, yeah.
you can't really see much. But at
No.
the end of that valley there, what an amazing view.
Yeah, so we hiked up the first day. What did we do? 15 kilometers.
Yeah, it was a good huff the first
And we
day.
were feeling pretty good, obviously, his first day. So we just like smashed that and found a good spot next to the creek and set up camp. Got everything organized and our food up in the tree. And then we went and did some glassing up on a hillside there. And we saw a grizzly bear just cruising the hillside there. But other than that, we didn't see anything. We headed back down to camp, called it a night. We had a really good fire, and that's a good point, or a good place to mention that we had a saw. I don't remember what it's called offhand, but I'll make a mention of it on Instagram or something. But we chopped wood every single day and had incredible fires every single night.
Oh, that's a morale booster right there.
Huge. So we made that a priority. Every time we'd set up camp, we'd get that organized and we'd go get firewood. That was number one, because we knew that later on we'd be tired, we'd be coming back to camp and we would know there's firewood there. And it paid off, man, even though you don't feel like doing it sometimes.
And majority of the time we were soaking wet.
Yeah. So it's a good way to dry everything off. And when you're seeing so many grizzly bears, it's just nice to, we would stoke up the fire with just whatever. If it was like, brush or whatever, just throw a whole whack of shit on the fire before we went to bed. And I knew that thing would be smoldering all night long. It kind of gives us comfort, and it should keep bears away on that. I don't know if there's any science behind that, but I don't know.
Just helps you go to sleep at the end of the night.
For sure.
And that spot where we camped, like that's another thing we did about research, is that we camped in that specific spot because it was kind of it was a fork in the valley where two different valleys merged. Yeah. So we figured if we camped right at the pinnacle there, we could either branch off into each valley.
One didn't go too far, and that's the one we glassed up pretty good on the first day. And then on the second day from that camp, I should say, we went way up in that drainage as far as we could go. We hiked up into this saddle, and man, as far as all the places we went to, I think that was probably the most stunning area I've ever been in my life, probably.
I can't, just the scenery alone.
I don't even know if I can describe it. Again, I think we'll just have to put up some photos, but I don't know, try your best to describe it, Garrett.
Well, if you've ever been up high in the Alpine before, and if you've ever been to the Rockies or anything like that, remote, once you get up into that high elevation where you're up high in the mountains, it's just, everything is just, it's magnified. Everything feels a lot bigger, and you just feel so tiny once you get up there in that saddle and you're looking into both drainages. It's a 360-degree view all the way around you, and you can't stop but take pictures nonstop. No. It's unreal.
We found the only way to give it any justification was to do panoramic photos, because it just doesn't. You just can't capture it otherwise. And at one point there, man, I don't know if it's because the oxygen was getting thin up there or what, but both of you and I were like, man, it feels like kind of weird in here, because you're just like these huge jagged cliffs going up side by side on either side of you and to the front of you, and it's just like, man, you just feel like the walls are closing in on you, and you feel like tiny in there. It's bizarre.
Oh, and you feel like you got lead weights strapped to your legs. We literally pick, okay, we're gonna go to this rock, stop.
Yeah.
And then we'd go to the next rock, stop. Okay, now we're gonna, you know what I mean? You had to pace it out, because you just suck-holing for air.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty wild.
But wow, was it worth it?
Absolutely. So we weren't seeing any sheep sign, nothing, no trails in the snow, no tracks on the mud, or I saw one turd. That was it, one single.
Well, you spotted 4 grizzly bears.
Yeah, so I guess that was on the way up, right?
And then, when you spotted those 4, we started looking, and those bears have been turning up everything, every boulder.
Man.
I don't know what it was they're in there eating or looking for, but it was like a bulldozer went through there, and they were rolling rocks over, and we'd get in different parts of the drainage, and you can see where they were flipping things over. So they were going around and that,
doing circles in there,
and just eating whatever they could.
Yeah. So I guess that's sort of the conclusion we came to. Even though this was the area, this is the place we got to go. There's going to be lots of sheep in here. I'm sure there were at some point, but with 4 grizzly bears in there, forget it. Why would any sheep hang out in there?
And then with the weather rolling in and out, it would get socked in, right? So you can't see much. And then all of a sudden it would break, and then you go, oh, hey, Garrett, look, there's a bunch of grizzly bears hanging out. So it was you who made the call, said, why are we in here? Let's get out of here. Let's go back to where we spotted all the animals.
Yeah, head back down.
And set a camp up there and make a plan.
Yeah. So we headed back down. We actually met up with the outfitter on our way back down from that drainage, heading back to our Camp 1, we'll call it. And we chatted with them. They actually hadn't had any luck with sheep up here this year. They've been going since August 1st. And so we wished them good luck and told them we were heading back down to the valley bottom, which they were probably happy. So they had that to themselves. And we figured it seems like you'd have a better view being up high where we were. But we realized that being down in the valley bottom, the mountains we could glass and look up into is pretty much endless, man. Like any direction you could look, right?
Yeah, just put more. It had more to offer. And you know what? Like the same thing, that conversation with the outfitter, they were super great. It was,
Yep.
you know, they were accommodating, and so were we. And we went on our way, and
Yeah.
we told them what we were doing. They said, yeah, okay, good luck, you guys. And away you go.
Yeah. Tired. Day 8, we hiked back down to the valley. We set up camp there. We would call that Camp 2. We decided we knew goat was opening the following day. We had seen goats. So we figured we'd go up the river, the creek from where we had camp, and we'd go take a look for sheep and goats. We saw 7 sheep, right?
Yep.
Possibly 9. There's those 2 at the bottom, and I'm quite sure. I'm like 90% sure that those were sheep as well. So that was cool.
And you know, like we looked at that mountain multiple times, and then there's nothing, and then we keep and then boom, here's 7 sheep out in the middle of the saddle eating.
Yeah, their white asses just pop up, and there they are, just show up out of nowhere. It's crazy.
And once again, young ram, not a full, just a little dinker, but still cool to see sheep. Yeah.
And so we saw the goats again. They're kind of scattered all over the mountains. So we thought, okay, they've obviously been hanging out here. Let's make a plan to hike up here first thing tomorrow morning. And so we picked a bit of a route and went back, called it a night. We had another good fire and climbed to bed. We set our alarms for 5:15 to go after goats. So day 9, we got up. Man, it's a long ass day. But we went back up the creek. It's like first light, so we glassed up the mountainside, and we saw 2, which was less than we had hoped to see, I guess, compared to what we had seen before. But they had just moved, I guess, around to the other side. I explained it's kind of like a V that juts out. So I'm assuming they were all on that backside, but I thought, cool, there's goats there. And let's follow our plan. So we hiked up all the shale, super steep, but not that bad going up.
Oh man, that was like fucking vertical.
Yeah, but like as far as like if it was because it was wet, like I mean the shale.
Oh yeah.
If it was dry, it would have been.
Like it was like it compact. Like
yeah.
Yeah, well, you're part gazelle, so you rip up there. Fuck, man, I was dying. And we stripped, like, we got it. We're like, hey, we're only you brought a stove. You're like, I'll bring the stove. You bring your spotter. And, like, we strapped our backs down, like, to
nothing.
Minimal weight. Okay, we're only bring this much water. Because, you know, once you get on top of that mountain, there's no water at all. So the water you do have, you have to make sure you're drinking the right amount. So when you end up putting an animal down, you don't have any water left, you're fucked.
Yeah, exactly. So we brought meals. We brought dinner in that too, just in case. I had some water in my Camelback, not much, and then a full Nalgene. I think you did the same thing, right?
Yeah, I did the same thing, and then I just tried to keep up to you running up the side of the fucking mountain.
So we get up this very steep incline, and it flattens out. And that's kind of like our next opportunity to glass some goats. And from that angle, we couldn't actually see the 2 that we had spotted from the bottom, but we found one more, actually a third one, that was kind of in and out of the alder brush there. So how long do you think we were there glassing for, Garrett?
Oh, it must have been hours. we set up there like.
It was an hour for sure, I think.
Oh, down below, yeah.
Down below, yeah.
We watched him for about an hour.
And then he disappeared, or he or she, I don't know if it was a nanny or a Billy, disappeared around the front side, out of view, which is kind of what we wanted, because we're like, damn, this guy's right where we want to hike up, and he's going to blow our cover. So we waited and waited and waited, and that goat went around to where the other two were. So we're like, okay, perfect. Don't see anything else around. Let's head up through here. And hiked up around the back side of the mountain. And the plan was to come up on top of them. So we did that. And man, that was a challenging hike, to say the least.
It's part one, Kel.
It's pretty intense already.
It's like the way we set it up is like it's a journey from the moment you leave your place, man, because it's that's a lot of driving. That's like 2 days of driving and all the unexpected stuff that comes along with it.
We kind of planned this to be a sheep hunt, but in the back of our minds, we knew that goat was a possibility. And it sounds like you guys had eyes on a lot of sheep, but you just couldn't find that full curl or 8-year-old ram.
No, not at that point. No,
but you had a bunch of goats that you could see, so it kind of shifted to a goat hunt.
It did. One of the key takeaways was like the last night, Garrett and I were sitting by the lake and just kind of talking about future hunts and how we would do things based off of this one. And we said, you know what, man, we just need to start calling these hunts and being open to any possibility. Because if you fixate on this is where we need to go, this needs to be the outcome. When you get there, it's like, oh, I didn't expect this, or the weather is this way. So it's kind of like, pick your locations, have some options available to you so that a hunt can be a hunt the whole time you're there. And, if it's like, okay, this has to be a moose hunt or this has to be a caribou hunt, and you can't hunt that species for some reason, and you've put everything into that, well, then now you've kind of like, your chips are all on one area. So having other options totally opens up opportunities for anything, man.
Yeah.
If it's location, if it's species. And that was sort of the one, as good it is as it is, especially, if you're paying a guide and you're going on a sheep hunt, well, you're going on a sheep hunt. But for us as residents, man, we have every option available to us, and we should embrace that, especially when you're going that far up there. We're spending thousands of dollars just on the plane ride alone, never mind all the hotels we had to stay in because of weather and all that kind of stuff. So it was like, you know what? Both of us want to get a sheep. We're going to try as hard as we can to get a sheep. But if we don't see one, no problem. We got all these other options available to us, which made it fun. Yeah,
that's what I was going to say, like the resident side of things and the opportunity to basically shift your hunt. And, you had how many tags in your pocket? 4 or 5?
4, I think. Yeah. So sheep, goat, caribou, and moose.
And elk, maybe not in that specific region, but not too far away. There's elk too, right? Yeah. So we're pretty lucky that way. I totally agree. I've shifted my, like when I go out now hunting, instead of putting all that pressure on you and, what are the chances I'm going to get a 4-point muley opportunity right now with my bow? And like, it's kind of like depressing even thinking about it because the chances are kind of low around here.
The odds in any hunting scenario, the odds are 100%, well, 99.9% stacked against you, man.
And every time you go out, the plan, you always have to alter it.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I started thinking more about like, this is a walk and I have the opportunity to bring something home. And then I just kind of, I'm shifting more to that side of things. And then you kind of alter your plan based on what feels right at the moment.
Exactly.
And it makes it more enjoyable. It takes a lot of pressure off you too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I totally hear you on that one. But yeah, it's super cool. I kind of want to backtrack a little bit and talk about kind of the start.
Sure.
So first thing we hear is these bells on the horses. Yeah. What's the story there? Chris?
Yeah, so they let the horses out to feed. They basically just, they set them loose. They actually tie off I didn't see how they were doing it, but Garrett knows all about it because he's looking into horses, but they kind of shackle up their front legs so they can't like totally take off. They can still walk around fine, but they can't just like take off at full speed. So they're just walking around feeding, and they were surrounding the whole tent, which was actually really comforting because there was a huge grizzly bear around. One for sure, I think two. We saw some smaller tracks and some the size of this snare drum in front of us. They're massive, biggest bear tracks I've ever seen. And we knew that bear was around, so having the horses around us both nights, actually they were on the other side of the lake the second night, but just having those bells around is for the purpose of, scaring grizzly bears away. So it was nice to have them there, man.
Comforting
and
feeling.
It just sounds cool because they as you can hear in this, they sort of fade off into the distance. They went up onto this plateau that was up above us there, which is actually where the bear had been hanging out. So it was like perfect. Hopefully that pushes the bear out of here and lets us sleep a little easier. So
cool.
Yeah,
comforting feeling being near some type of civilization, even if it's a bunch of horses.
Yeah, some sort of critter that's on your side. Yeah.
So you guys took off, and like we talked about in previous episodes, you'd split the drive.
Yeah.
Probably a good decision.
Great decision. We did the same thing on the way home.
Yeah, that's perfect. Once you guys made it up there, and I felt for you, you got like crushed by weather.
We did, yeah.
For like a few days, 3 or 4 days.
Well, so we got up on, it was this Sunday afternoon that we got it because we left so early from Smithers. We woke up at 4:30 in the morning or something like that and hit the road. So we were up there pretty early. Thankfully, we did leave that early because we actually hit, there's a good couple inches of snow on the road. It was like slushy, wet shit because the ground temperature is warm. So the snow's kind of melting, but it's actually quite deep. And we had summer tires on the vehicle. So I was driving, I was like white knuckling it, man, because that slush is pulling you. And
it's almost worse than snow.
Yeah, I think it was. And then you've got like, there's all these people going up to do the Alaska highway, and they've got these massive RVs, so they drive by and just spray, slush and shit all over you. And it was kind of chaos, man. But luckily, because we had left early, we were able to sort of like get through there before it got too intense. Because if we left even a couple hours later, I don't know, man, it would have been pretty challenging to drive through there.
I think it's lucky that you guys got there and then the weather hit and you weren't actually in the woods by then, because that's what happened to Dylan from Eat Wild, and I was following his Instagram, and I'm like, oh man, like that sucks that you guys are waiting, but at the end of the day, this is actually going to work out.
Yeah. You know, and we had mentally prepared ourselves for the fact, we were thinking like we might get stuck out there and not be able to not be stuck in these lakes. So it was kind of funny. And, everyone's like, oh, hang in there. It's like keep your chin up or whatever. But we were just like, that's fine. Like there's nothing anybody can do about it. We're just bored out of our goddamn minds because there's nothing to do. So there was actually the one of the pilots let us know there was like a shooting range we could go up to not too far down the road. So we went and got sighted in one day, and we were doing that in the snow. I've got some video of that actually.
Nice.
So yeah, there was stuff to do, and there's I think it was the Tuesday, we basically just hung out there at BC Yukon. And I don't know, they're probably getting sick of us. We were just like, we got nothing to do, so we're going to drink a few cold beers on the couch here and sit by the fire, if that's all right with you guys. And
that's probably why they were giving you plane rides. Hey, get these guys out of here for a couple hours. How long? I don't know if we want to get into too much detail. I was just wondering how long the flight actually was.
It's about an hour, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, somewhere around there. Yeah.
Okay.
And pretty hairy lake to fly into. Michaela, I mentioned that in there. She hadn't flown into that lake before, and she's like, "Oh wow, it's it's a little different than I expected." She'd flown over, so we had to make a couple passes just to decide how she wanted to land there. And you sort of have to like come in, and you're inside the valley, and you come around. You have to hang a bit of a left, and then like try and land in the lake on an angle, sort of, and then you have to. Once you landed, they've got the rudders on the float, so you can sort of steer. And so, but it's not like a nice flat, straight, shot in there.
Yeah.
So we had to fly in through the valley, bank a hard left, and it's pretty because the plane is like tilted, and all you can see out the front window is like, holy shit, there's a mountain right in front of us. But I think she was having fun, and it was pretty cool. Those beavers are awesome, man.
Nice.
They're pretty neat. Yeah.
I was kind of hoping for an old pilot. Like you posted a photo.
Yeah.
And it's just like a profile. So I just assumed like bush pilot dude. And then I was like, oh man, that looks like a really young Like, I don't know if, and then you said never landed in that lake. So I don't know. I would have been stressed a little bit, but having never done it, but.
No, mainly we went out with her like on that first initial flight and got a feel for how she flies and safety and all that kind of stuff. And,
oh man, yeah. I mean, if I had a choice between a woman or a man pilot, like most things, they say women are better shooters with rifles and like all this stuff because they take their time.
A little more calculated, yeah.
Calculated, yeah. So I think that's cool.
Yeah. We got picked up by an older guy on the way out. I can't remember his name actually, but pretty experienced local bush pilot. And that's the thing is like with that shitty weather, maybe a more experienced pilot would have tried to get us over that mountain pass through all that shit. And it would have been pretty hairy. Yeah. So anyways.
Yeah.
It was
fun. Good.
Yeah.
So you guys got in.
We did.
Finally.
Yeah.
Landed on this sketchy lake and you see the plane take off.
Yeah.
And I heard the plane had something in it that you needed.
Oh yeah. I don't think we mentioned that in the recording Garrett and I did. So as the plane is flying away, it hit me. Like Garrett, like you can just hear like the plane's off in the distance. It's totally gone now.
Yeah.
Like, hey, our bear spray was in the floats. It's like, oh shit. And then we start hiking up. First thing we see is massive grizzly bear tracks. Like, well, is what it is, I suppose. We have no bear spray, so let's have our rifles. We'll carry our rifles. You get comfortable after a while, which probably isn't a good thing either. But, when we're, walking through there, we just make a little, bang your poles together because you're going through alders that are over your head in some of those situations. And when you're walking next to the creek, that's when you might creep up on them. And so we were like, thinking about the wind and stuff like that. So if the wind was coming from behind us and going down towards where we were walking, we were a little less cautious. But if it was coming towards us and we're next to a creek that's quite loud, we would make a little bit of noise in some of those areas just to be like, hey, we're coming, especially if there was tracks, because they were absolutely crawling all over there.
Did you see any cubs or was it just all...
Yeah, there was a sow and 2 cubs.
That's, I think, the situation you want to avoid is...
Yeah, absolutely.
Creek nearby. It just happens that the cub's on one side and the mom's on the other, and
for sure
you're in the middle.
Well, we made a real good effort to keep our camp super clean.
Yeah.
One piece of gear that I want to touch on, I think, is really important is the saw that I have. I picked it up from Lee Valley. I'll look up the name of it in a second here. It's called the Gowa Canyon, and it's the Boreal 21. It's not the smallest thing, but I was looking at different saw options, like the Wyoming saw. I think that's the other one. This one was actually lighter. So it's got like a nice solid plastic frame to it. It kind of folds out nicely. You can get different blades for it. There's a hunter's blade, which is what I have. It's kind of like wood, bone, just about anything that you get out there. So Garrett and I made a real effort. Every time we got, to a camp or if we're, setting to go out, we would make sure we cut all this firewood ahead of time so that when we came back, we were ready to rock and build a fire, because that's the last thing you want to do is come back and start cutting trees down and all that kind of stuff, right? And before we'd go to bed, we would load that fire up with all the leftover wood. So we would basically cut wood for one day, throw it all on there before we went to bed. Didn't matter how much there was, get a big raging fire going, throw some like green stuff on there just to get it smoking and smoldering a little bit.
Yep.
Hoping that would sort of keep bears out of there, because that thing would burn pretty much all night long, sort of thing, right? And I think that helped. And there was nothing ever left in the tent that had any trace of food or anything like that. So if a bear is curious, they're going to go in there. But that was, something we made sure of, that it was like spotless camp, nothing left behind and everything tied up in a tree.
Nice.
Yeah.
You did come across a tent that was destroyed.
We did, yeah. Just some resident hunters that had left a Kafaru sawtooth behind, and bear just got curious and ripped that thing apart. So
you got to be careful for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the thing, man. It's kind of like every time we'd come back to the tent, I'm like, please, 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 just be like, as soon as you see the tent, you're like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
It didn't get destroyed.
Because your sleeping bags and everything.
Everything's in there, and that's like our only shelter, right? We didn't bring anything else in. We talked about bringing the teepee next time, we're going to do that with the stove and just leave it strung up in a tree at the main lake. And that can sort of be our, stuck there due to snow, bad weather, whatever, needs some comfort in the stove. Let's leave that thing there, but not leave it set up. That's for sure.
Did you guys have a tarp?
Yeah, we brought just those little small tarps, like footprint. Mine's that mech one that I have from my old tent there. Garrett had one too. Those are hugely important just for, having that in the vestibule to lay out all our stuff. We kind of dedicated mine to that. Yeah. And then when we would get wet, or if we were like trying to repack our bags, we would lay Garrett's out, because that one was always just stayed dry basically. And then you always have somewhere dry and clean to put all your stuff down. And those tarps dry really fast if they do get wet. So those were hugely helpful. I think all three of us should have one. Yeah. And then you can kind of rotate them for that. They have a million uses really, man. So,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good if you have to, if something happens to the tent, you can pop the tarp up too and trekking poles, and at least you have some shelter.
Yeah, for sure.
If in terms of like distance, because we had planned out like where we were about to go and all this stuff, were we realistic, or did you get there and we're like, we're only going to get half to where we thought we were going to?
No, we just smashed that first day. I was actually kind of surprised. We did 15 kilometers that first day.
Nice.
We're feeling good. We're like, let's keep going. There's good trails. Actually, we had to do a little bit of bushwhacking, but when you're fresh and you're excited, it doesn't really matter that much. Yeah. We were just trying to avoid a creek crossing. And the conclusion that I came to with this is like, we've put more energy and tried to avoid taking our boots off. It's easier just to take your boots off and cross the friggin' creek and stay on a good trail. So it's like, I don't know. It's funny how the mind works in that way. It's like, well, I don't want to take my boots off. Well, now we're going to spend double the time smashing through all this shitty brush and getting hung up on stuff and getting frustrated when we could have just took our boots off. It's a pain in the ass, but in the long run, it's worth it. So
yeah, it's just, you think about, you have to be drying your feet. Because the thing is, if you're going to take your boots off and go through the lake or the river, you can't rush putting your boots back on. You have to make sure that you're putting your socks on correctly and you're drying your feet, and otherwise you end up with a blister. So I think on both sides of that coin, or that creek, you have to take the time to do things right.
Yeah, and that's usually, we'd sort of try and time it with like, let's sit down and have a snack too while our feet dry out. Yeah. And because we're pulling our gaiters off, I usually just laid both of my gaiters out, put my bare feet out. I think we're doing that last time too. Yeah. And just let your feet dry out, and then whatever, once they're good to go, you put your socks back on, because you don't want a bunch of moisture inside your boot, because that's going to give you some troubles.
Yeah, for sure. So you guys start heading up this valley, which you mentioned was just like solid,
it's crazy
mountains, steep mountains going up in both directions. I thought it was interesting. You mentioned you got to that saddle, which is kind of where we had planned to go. You were met with a army of bears up there.
We had already sort of come to the conclusion before we got up to the saddle that like, this isn't a good spot. There's nothing in here but bears. Yeah. We were looking like crazy for sign and didn't see anything. But we thought, what, we've come all the way up here. It's beautiful. Let's just finish this and go up to the saddle. And that'll sort of be like, our goal for the day. So that's what we did.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you think you could have, set camp minus the bears? Do you think you could have set camp there and used it as a hub to like get into other draws, or is it just...
The thing is, once you're up there, you're stuck in that.
Right.
Like, it's not really worth all the effort to bring all your camp stuff up there. If there was sheep and stuff like that, we probably would have moved up there. Yeah. But because how we talked about, you're sort of just closed in with those mountain walls. That's all you have is like basically on either side of that saddle, you've got like a tunnel of, I can look this way and I can look that way, and that's it. But when we're down at the main drainage, the main sort of valley, you could see a whole lot better. You could see way down the valley, way up the valley. And if we wanted to get a better view, to do some glassing, you don't even have to climb that high up on a mountainside to get a better view. Yeah. So that was like the conclusion we came to, is like, we're kind of limiting ourselves up here. We've already seen sheep and goats down below, and we feel like we can get a better sense of what our options are by going down there. Right. And if you're following that main valley, you can look up all these different drainages, right? Yeah. Rather than just being stuck inside of one of them, you're pretty limited that way, unless you see some sheep.
Yeah.
So,
were you intrigued by going south instead? In person, like when you saw it, were you like, oh, maybe south would have been a good place to go? Or I don't know what you could see. Like if you could see
You
down
could
that
see
way.
down there,
or-
but then the thing is like, well, the further we go, the further we have to pack back
Right.
meat. And because we had lost 3 days already on the
Yep.
front of the trip, we kind of lost a bit of that window so we weren't even really thinking about it. Had we seen a full curl ram further down, we
Yeah.
would have went for sure.
Yeah.
But we weren't seeing anything
Yeah.
down that direction. Doesn't mean that they weren't down there. We just weren't seeing them. So
How was it seeing stone sheep for the first time?
it was exciting, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially because we spotted the first 4 within a couple of hours of being on the trail.
Yeah. You were probably like, oh shit. This
We
is
had
gonna
just
be...
seen a moose and like a cow and a calf before that, and then 4 sheep. He actually it's like just looked like bananas coming off the side of them. They were they're small, the thin horn, but not a full curl. But like, cool, that's come back in 5 years, that's going to be a nice ram.
Yep.
And the other 4 with it. The other thing was like we couldn't see behind, so we were like, okay, let's keep that one in mind because there could have been more sheep back there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And with that weather that rolled through, you were saying the animals were kind of a little lower anyways.
Seemed like it. That's where we were seeing them all. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything was very much on they weren't up in the alpine. They were down sort of on the line of where the vegetation was, which makes sense. They're all in there feeding, right?
Which reminds me of our elk hunt.
Yeah.
Back in the day when there's video of us trudging through like a foot of snow in
Yeah.
early October.
Yep.
And we're like, oh, why don't we go down to the snow line? And boom, we got the
Exactly.
big elk there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a good tip for people is follow the snow.
Yeah, for sure. Before we got in there was apparently about 8 inches at the lake of snow.
Mm.
So that was all melted by the time we got there, but the snow line was not far from there. It was patches of snow everywhere. So I think it changed things for sure. Yeah.
It would have been pretty intense walking through 8 inches of snow at camp, never mind like going up into the mountains.
You would have been the guys that we ran into there. The outfitter, they hadn't moved for days. They were just waiting for that to pass. They couldn't see shit, and the trails are covered in that. So, yeah, like I said, we were lucky that we were stuck in Dease Lake with a hotel and restaurant. Well, limited restaurants, but things to do and kill time, I guess.
That's a good point, actually. Like snow rolls in like that, and you're already out there. You got to find your way back too.
Yeah.
You might not have the trail as obvious, right? Depending on how much snow you have.
Yeah.
GPS is pretty
Mhm.
important, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like to run it all the time, but like just to run it to where you're going, just so you know to come back.
I was using
and then just
Fat
shut
Map
it off.
while we were in there.
Oh yeah.
Because it's very much like it gives you a good sense of where you're at and some of the routes you can take and what might be behind where we saw those first 4 sheep and get a sense of where they might be hanging out, and that's super useful. So
Nice.
I can't remember who told us to check that out, but thanks. That was great.
Yeah.
I'll show it to you. I've got where we marked where we saw the bears and the sheep and the goats and the moose
Cool.
and everything's on there.
Where you saw the goat.
Yeah.
Goats.
Yeah.
Tons of goats in there, it sounds like.
Tons. Yeah.
But there was a sheep too. It seemed like one of your oldest ones that you saw.
Yeah.
What was there like that's goat country and this is sheep country, or were they kind of intermixed?
They seem to be a little bit intermixed. The goats obviously like to hang out more on those cliff faces and stuff like that. But those goats had been moving around. They were all on that those 2 cliff faces when we first came in.
Mm.
But when we came back to do the glassing, there was only 2 of them. So I don't know where those guys had gone. When we hiked
trees
out,
nearby.
yeah. So there's all the alders, and they just disappear into that
Yeah,
stuff.
they might just bed in there.
I think they were going back up into where the 3/4 curl ram that we saw was on the other side of the valley there, but similar terrain, so they might cross over, I would think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think goats are pretty, like they kind of stay in an area for. I'm just thinking of the ones driving to Penticton.
Yeah.
You can't hunt anywhere in there anymore, but yeah, I always see them on the side of the highway in
Right.
the same spot.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah, for sure.
They're pretty safe in those spots, but
That's the thing. The ones in the park move around quite a bit.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah. See them all over the place actually in there. So
Yeah.
just depends where they are, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So I guess you guys moved camp back down to that fork in the river.
Yeah.
And at that point, it seemed like you converted more to the dedication to goat.
Yeah, so we goat opener was the next day. So we thought, okay, we've seen all these sheep down below, only the 4 at that point.
Yeah.
And let's go back down there because we can actually glass goats and sheep from the valley bottom.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go down there. That's where the animals were. Makes sense. Let's go back.
Yeah.
So we went down I think it was Saturday. I think goats opened on the Sunday. And we moved camp, got set up, did all our firewood. So that was sort of our routine,
Mm-hmm.
get organized. And then we went up the creek and set up to start glassing. And we saw the goats there. And then Garrett stayed down below with the spotter. I decided to hike up and see what kind of a trail we could, just to get a sense of what we'd be climbing through for the goats. And I did climb too far up the shale stuff and sat down and started glassing across the valley to see if there's any sheep around.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't take long. And they're like, holy shit, there's 7 there. And Garrett didn't know that I had climbed up there. So I was like trying to get his attention. He didn't know I had camo on and stuff. So we were both pretty blended in. So
yeah.
Anyways, I stayed up there for quite a while watching the sheep. I'm just looking through binos, and these guys are way across, so I can't see horns or anything. So I go down, and Garrett's smiling, and I'm like, yeah, obviously you saw them as well, and he's got the spotter on him.
Yeah.
And no full curl rams in there, but again, it's like, cool, we see them. There could be more up there, so let's keep an eye on this area. And we started to run out of light, and we wanted to get up at, I think we set our alarm for 5:15 to head up and see if we could get goats on opener.
Sweet.
That's what we did.
This doesn't sound like caribou country, like when you guys headed down that river.
No.
Not enough open prairie, like fields and,
No.
I don't know what the word is. I guess open alpine.
Yeah. So I think if we had gone like north, like right from the lake, head northwest sort of, I think we
Yeah.
would have gotten to some caribou
Okay.
country back that way.
Yeah.
That was my sense of it anyways. But
Yeah.
I saw one shed that was left at one of the outfitter camps. I don't know where they got that thing from, but it was just
yeah.
one. So there's
Cool.
moose sheds everywhere up there.
Yeah. Lots of moose, it sounds like.
Tons. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that's sort of where we got to on this first part of the episode. So
Yeah, it's
we started
awesome.
climbing up, but yeah.
Well, I just want to touch on gear a little bit. So up to this point, when you're
Mhm.
looking at these goats and you're like, oh, I'm going to hike up this, probably the steeper mountain that
Yeah, it's crazy.
that you got to. How's your gear at this point? Like, are you dealing with any issues, or like your boots are doing good? Your rain gear's fine.
Yeah, we didn't take the rain gear off, and I want to give a shout out to Sitka on that rain gear because we were wearing it constantly and going through rough stuff and didn't rip anything, didn't get saturated with water. We're just
Mhm.
constantly walking through wet alders, so you're just getting soaked constantly, man.
Mhm.
So I would just wear my merino base layer and rain gear. We were sweating our balls off because it becomes a bit humid and you're moving and you got a heavy pack and all that stuff. Whenever we'd stop to glass, I'd throw my heavyweight hoodie on, plus the Kelvin lightweight hoodie.
Yeah.
Rain gear back on top of that, and it was plenty warm. So
Cool.
that was sort of my system the whole time.
Yeah.
As soon as we get ready to hike again, I would be cold, but I'd take all that stuff off and strip back down. And, it doesn't take long. It takes 10 minutes and you warm back up again
Yeah.
once you take that stuff off.
Yeah.
So
It sounded like you guys were a little low on calories.
only on some days.
Yeah.
We were doing more than we probably should have, I think.
okay.
So I think I could have we were joking about that because I'm like, man, I could have brought more food and I would have ate it,
Mhm.
but I don't need it.
You're packing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I was watching Stephen Drake's vlog because he goes on a lot of these
Yeah.
hunts for photography, but he was saying he brought 2,700 a day and he needed a little more.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe they were working really hard too. I would imagine they are, but that's where I was kind of like, I've met Stephen. He's a pretty skinny guy, and
Yeah.
if he needs 3,000, then I was kind of between that
yeah.
28
I
to
don't know.
3,000 range.
I think you can bring it. We're just a part of it too is I think you're just craving something different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're just eating these same types of meals every day, but it wasn't like we would go to bed and our stomachs would be growling. We would feel totally fine. It's
Right.
just like, I don't know. Part of it I think is boredom too. Sometimes you just feel like eating shit.
Yeah.
But so I wouldn't have wanted to bring any more food, to be honest. I would have ate it on a couple days. That's where it's nice to have that extra thing at back of the lake because you know there's some extra food. So if you are
Mhm.
hungry and you want to tear into some snacks or something like that from another day,
Yeah.
you could. But we never got to that point where it's like, we need to open up more food. We were totally fine.
Yeah. And how was Heather's choice?
Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really good. There's something to be said for the homemade ones. It tastes like home. I think that's part of why I like those ones.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's comfort there. The pasta that I made, the meat
Mhm.
sauce was one of the best ones I've ever made. So I'm going to continue to do
Nice.
that. I did some rice curries. Really love those ones.
Yeah.
But yeah, the all Heather stuff was really good. And Garrett even made a comment. He's like, man, anytime I eat one of these mountain houses, I feel like I'm just shit my pants. I'm just farting like crazy. And when you eat Heather's stuff, it just feel good. You know what I mean?
Less farts.
Yeah. The other mountain houses he's just fighting them, man. And there was one point when we hiked up to the saddle there, I thought he was going to shit his pants,
Yeah.
like not long after eating it. So he's like, I can't handle these sometimes, but
Mhm.
there's a lot of calories in those. I guess that's the only benefit, but
Yeah.
really, I don't know. I wouldn't bother with those.
Yeah. I mean, there are some better brands, but Heather's Choice being one of them. I've noticed a lot of ones popping up actually
Mm-hmm.
in that market. But yeah, I've still got my bag packed basically.
Yeah.
I'm gonna save those as long as I can, obviously.
Yeah.
For some hunts we
I've got a
coming
few
out.
left over. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, yeah, I guess we can
Leave it there.
leave it here and we'll get to mid goat hunt next time.
Conclusion. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's do it.
Cool.
Cheers.
Cheers.
This episode of Rookie Hunter was brought to you by the Wild Sheep Foundation, Sitka Gear, and North Arm Knives. As always, it is hosted by Kelly Mullner and myself, Mike Peterson. It is recorded, edited, and produced at Mountain Stream Audio Productions in beautiful Kelowna, British Columbia. Original music written by the one and only Kelly Mullner with help from Graham Ord, Darcy Booth, and Chip Sleedermean. If you want to help us out, there's one thing you can do. You can go to iTunes or wherever you get your podcast from and leave us a 5-star rating and a review. And don't forget to subscribe. For more on the show, head over to our website, theRookieHunter.com.
Thank you.